Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to do a kettlebell clean and press overhead step back lunge. This video is part of a big series of kettlebell instructional videos where we start with the most basic things and we're adding one step of complexity each video so people can learn at home on their own good technique. We have worked on picking it up with a deadlift. We turned it into a swing. The swing became a hand-to-hand swing. The swing became a clean. We added a press. We always work on our swing and our clean and press with kettlebells for years. The goal for men is to get men up to at least a 32K. Think for the swings, think 200 swings in 10 minutes. Think for the clean and press, 150 clean and press in 20 minutes. For ladies, depending on frame size, it could vary greatly. It could be 12K, it could be 16K, it could be 20K, it could be higher. It varies greatly. After we learn to clean and press, we work on the Turkish get up. Getting up and down off of the ground with a weight in one hand, because getting up and down off of the ground is a basic human skill and everybody of every age should be good at it. We design entire programs around getting up and down off of the ground with weight. Just by doing that, you restore a lot of basic human movement. And just by doing that, people get much, much stronger in their core. Their core becomes equally strong on all sides, and they become more athletic on accident. Doesn't matter if you're 15 years old or you're 80 years old, everybody should work on Turkish get-ups. This is the first overhead extension version of that idea. Start with 2 feet pointed straight ahead, feet directly underneath your shoulders. We don't need a big turnout for this exercise because we will be stepping back. If we are turned out, we'll have to add the step pointing our feet straight ahead before we can move. Just start with your feet pointed straight ahead. Kettlebell in between the insteps of the feet. Step back. The kettlebell is 12 to 18 inches in front of your feet. When we pick the weight up, thumb points down, the L of our hand, L, goes to the L of the kettlebell. Wrap it around. Elbow straight. Hike the weight back like you're hiking a football. Stand up. Elbow close to the body. The grip with kettlebells is important. It should not be a barbell grip. The kettlebell should be rotated, handle down at a 45-degree angle. Elbow, wrist, knuckle in a vertical line. No elbow out, pull the elbow in. Thumb at collarbone height. Press, overhead, lock out the elbow. Now we're gonna add the step back lunge. This is the hard part. Step back, opposite leg. Put the knee all the way down on the ground. Keep the elbow locked out, squeeze the tricep. That's why there's a bunch of exercises before this, because we need to develop that strength separately from the lunge. Drive through the lead leg heel, drive straight up. Keep the elbow locked. Bring the weight down, thumb at collarbone height. Point the thumb back, clean, catch. Overhead lockout, focus on the tricep. Step back, opposite leg. Put the knee all the way down on the ground. 90 degrees with the lead leg, 90 degrees with the rear leg. Many people will put an arm out to make sure that they are not tipping to one side. Drive up. Bring the weight down. Clean. Press. Step back. Settle. Drive up. Weight down. Clean. Press, step back, settle your hips, make sure they're square, drive up, bring the weight down. When you set the weight down, push it back, drift it out in front. Push the weight back, drift it out in front, return to standing. Let's quickly demonstrate it with the other side because many people will need to see it with both sides in order to learn. Starting at the kettlebell, step back 12 to 18 inches, L of the hand, thumb points down, goes to the L of the kettlebell. Push back, elbow close to the body. Catch. If you need to adjust the bell to the kettlebell grip. Press to lock out, arm out to square the shoulders, step back with the leg, put the knee all the way down on the ground. Step back, knee on the ground, settle back. 90 degrees with the lead leg, 90 degrees with the rear leg. Squeeze the tricep. Arm out to the side, drive up. Squeeze the glutes at the top, drive the rib cage down. Weight down. Elbow stays close to the body. Clean. Press. Step back. Rib cage down. Feel a stretch in the low leg hip. Focus on the elbow. Drive up. Weight down. Elbow stays close to the body. Push the weight back. Stand up with the hips. Squeeze the glutes. With every kettlebell exercise, squeeze the glutes to protect the lower back. If you need to adjust the bell on every clean, adjust on every clean. Press to lockout. Step back. Think about the arm. Think about squeezing the glutes. Drive up. Bring the weight down. Push the weight back. Set it down out in front. Stand up with good technique. This starts to get hard for most people. When we start kettlebell training, we point 2 feet straight ahead. We work on hip snap. The kettlebell swing is our power equivalent of a barbell deadlift. Then we do a kettlebell clean, like a barbell clean. Then we add a press, like you would do in barbell. Kettlebell can add a lot of complexity that barbell can't. This is where we start it, stepping back. We start by stepping back because we can control the lead leg. If we step forward, people will do a lot of things. And if they turn out and they're not conscious of it, they can injure themselves. So we point 2 feet straight ahead. We step back so we can focus on the lead foot. We can make sure it's straight, pointed straight ahead, and strong so that we can drive up out of that heel to get up. Like all kettlebell exercises, at the top, squeeze the glutes, drive the rib cage down. With any kettlebell, if you start at the beginning and you add one movement each day, over time, you will restore how your core is supposed to fire, and you will learn to do all the basic things that humans do. Pick up weights, put them overhead, get up and down off of the ground. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to work on the kettlebell half kneeling hip drop. The hip drop part is where it gets hard for most people doing the Turkish get up. When we do the Turkish get up, we start getting down. So we start with a clean, we go to a step back lunge, we go to our half kneeling position, we work on our clean, our press, our high windmill in that position, and we also start from the ground up. Ground press, press to roll, press to elbow, press to hand, or the half get up. Then we train the hip drop from both sides, from the top down and from the bottom up. This video is the top down hip drop portion of the movement. Get down to your half kneeling position any way you want. The important part is that the lead leg is approximately 90 degrees. The rear leg is approximately 90 degrees. If one knee is too far forward, this is a different position that's more advanced. Get to our half kneeling position, solid heel on the ground, lead foot pointed straight ahead. The lead leg hand is the one that we're going to use to pick up the kettlebell. Thumb pointed up, thumb pointed down. The L of the hand goes to the L of the kettlebell. Kettlebell is in line with the instep of the lead leg. We're gonna hike the weight back, bring the kettlebell close, press overhead, and find the ground to start. Then we will add the hip drop. Thumb up, thumb down, grab the kettlebell, push back, catch, overhead press, lockout, free hand, slide down, touch the ground. Here is the exercise of the day. Drop the hip, lift the knee up, sit out and through, sit the hip all the way down. Keep that elbow and tricep locked out. Drive with the base hand, shoulder away from the ear, elbow locked. Lift the hip up off the ground, lead heel stays flat. Bring the knee all the way back in line with the hand, and repeat. Leg goes out, drop down, straighten the arm all the way out, make the neck long, lift up. Knee comes all the way back. That's the hard part. Again, sit out, sit down, straighten the arm, lift the hip, bring it all the way back. To get out of it, orient the body upright, square the shoulders, bring the kettlebell down to collarbone height. Push the weight back, set the weight down exactly where you picked it up. Let's talk about the thing that is most likely to go wrong. We're training from the top down so that this starting position is good. That way we know we're starting in the right spot, so we know where we need to bring our knee back to. Getting down is easy, getting back is hard. That free hand touches the leg, slides down, moves away from the body, palm flat on the ground. Something that people will want to do is put their fingers on the ground, but not put their palm on the ground. Put your whole hand flat on the ground. When we get through, lead heel stays flat on the ground. If you go so far forward that this foot deviates, it's going to be very hard on you. Keep that heel flat on the ground, foot pointed straight ahead. The elbow might try to bend. Straight elbow, get tall. Lift the hip up. Here is the hard part. The knee needs to come all the way back to the line of the hand. When people do it incorrectly, they will put their knee on the ground way in front of the position that they started in. This will make it hard for people to get up later on. Incredibly hard, actually. So, the most important part is that we put our knee all the way back in line with our hand so that our lead leg is 90 degrees and our rear leg is 90 degrees. That hand overhead, get it all the way down, heel flat on the ground. Always check that. Knee, lift up. Give yourself space to move through. Put the knee all the way back. If it's even a little bit too shallow, it's going to make it hard to do the get up portion in future evolutions of the movement. All the way back. We call this the hip drop or the hip pass because the hip is dropping and then passing back through. Getting out is easy. Lifting up and stabilizing the core is a muscle that most people haven't used in a long time. Focus on the overhead lockout. If the top elbow bends, everything gets really hard. Let's demonstrate what happens if the top elbow bends. L of the hand to the L of the kettlebell, hike the weight back, thumb, collarbone height. Overhead press, hold the lockout. Tip your body to the side, flat palm on the ground. Get all the way down. If the elbow bends, your shoulder is going to be in a really bad spot. Press up. Press both arms up. Lift up. Don't let that elbow bend. You're going to do something crazy to your shoulder. All the way back. If something goes wrong, the weight will drop straight down past your body. Focus on the overhead lockout. Do it by pressing up with one hand, pressing down with the other hand, and making your body as long as possible. Getting up and down off of the ground is a fundamental human skill that people lose as they age. When people are babies, they are on their back, they roll to their side, they get to a crawling position, they learn to stand up, they fall down, they learn to get back up again. This is something that everybody in the world learned at a very young age. Most people in the modern world forget it because the modern world is generally convenient and we get to sit in chairs a lot. This is a very hardcore exercise for most people. Just doing it without weight is hard. Actually putting the weight up overhead helps people align their shoulders better so that they can put their core in the right spot so they can learn to get up more effectively. We are using the weight as a training tool. It lets us know where our body is in space so that we can line up around that. Of course, we need to do an equal number of reps on both sides of our body. Most people will find one side doesn't work as well as the other side. This should be part of a larger Turkish Get Up Breakdown program. Everybody should do that at some point in their athletic training, regardless of age, regardless of if they play a sport or not. In order to be healthy, everybody in the world should practice getting up and down off the ground every day for the rest of their life. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to talk about the kettlebell half get up to knee pass. We have been working on the Turkish get up. Turkish get up is getting up or down off of the ground with weight. If you start at the top, it's Turkish get down. If you start at the bottom, it's a Turkish get up. We have been working on the middle part. The middle part is the hardest for most people because it requires what's called a hip pass. The hip pass is the hardest because it requires a lot of different movements that people are not used to because they live in the modern world, which is convenient, and we mostly sit down in the modern world. By learning this basic movement pattern, you will restore a lot of function of your core that everybody should possess, regardless of age, regardless of whether or not they play a sport. This exercise should not be limited to any one group. It should be for absolutely everybody, no matter what. Get down to the ground any way you want, 2 sits bones flat on the ground. The important part is how we pick up the kettlebell. If we pick up the kettlebell well, we are less likely to hurt our shoulder. Therefore, we are likely to get what we want out of training. If you're using a mat, slide yourself to one side. The goal is to have your base foot and your hand both on the same mat so that you cannot push the mat away from you. Roll your kettlebell up to the height of your elbow when you're laying down. Lay down the height of your elbow, get your kettlebell in place. Take the L of your hand to the L of the kettlebell, palm facing towards the sky. Other hand, roll over. Grab the hand, pull it close to you so that your hand is directly in front of your solar plexus. Roll, change legs. Same side, same leg. If you need to adjust to get your base leg and your base hand on the mat, do that. Press to elbow lockout. Hold the elbow lockout the entire time. Roll to the side. Drive your elbow into the ground, lift up, hand. Turn your body to look at the high hand. Keeping your eyes on the kettlebell is very important. If you look away from it, you do weird things to your shoulder and it gets a lot less strong the more you look away. Drive your arm straight up towards the sky. Lift your hip up. Bring your knee back to the line of your hand. Roll your eyes towards the kettlebell. Turn your body towards the bell. Sit back down any way you want. Lift your hip up. Bring your knee all the way back to the line of your hand. Drive both arms straight. Lift the knee up. Sit through. Sit the hip down. Drive up. Sit back through. Eyes on the bell. Sit through. Come all the way down. Do not bend your elbow. We're going to return back down to the ground. Elbow touches the ground. Shoulder touches the ground. Shoulder touches the ground. Now, elbow touches the ground. Change legs. Other hand comes across. Grab. Turn towards the bell to keep the bell in front of the center of your body where your shoulder is strongest. Now let's demonstrate it with the other hand, but my body in the same orientation, so my body will be rotated towards the camera. Get down to the ground any way you want. Don't slam your head into the ground. The L of our hand goes to the L of the kettlebell. Other hand, grab the hand, pull it in, kettlebell in front of the chest. Roll back flat on the ground. Arm at 90 degrees, arm at 0 degrees. Break the difference. If you need to adjust, adjust. Change legs. Same side, same leg. The weight is in the same hand as the bent leg. Press to lockout. Drive the rib cage down, squeeze the abs. That'll bring your head up off of the ground. Squeeze the tricep as hard as you can. The opposite hand at 0 degrees, 90 degrees, break the difference, 45 degrees. Roll to the side, eyes up on the bell. Drive up to your elbow, pause, drive your chest forward. Up to the hand, drive both arms long away from your spine. Lift the hip up, bring the knee all the way back to the line of the hand. Sit your hip all the way through. Look up at the bell, make both arms straight. Hip up, knee back, look at the kettlebell harder. Knee up, sit through. Make both arms straight. Lift up, knee all the way back to the line of the hand. Knee up, sit all the way through. Eyes up the entire time, both arms straight. Elbow touch, shoulder touch, hand down. Other hand comes across, change legs, roll to set the bell down. The hard part of the exercise is bringing the knee back to the line of the hand. When we are in our half get up position, this heel stays flat on the ground the entire time. Move your body around if you have to keep that heel down. If that heel is lifting up, you can do it. It just gets less efficient over time and it works less well with heavy weights. Think about what we're talking about here as introductory technique. We are lifting the hip up as high as you need to get the knee back. You will see more advanced practitioners lifting their hip really high up. But in the beginning, that can be hard for a lot of people. So just get the hip off of the ground enough that you can bring the knee back. Knee goes back to the line of the hand. That means this will be about 90 degrees. This will be about 90 degrees. So that we will be in a strong position to stand up if we were to complete the exercise. Hand in the same line. If we only bring our knee back part of the way, you can see that this is going to be a much harder position to get out of because we won't be able to use our lead leg to drive up as effectively. The whole point of this drill is to help us learn to go from straight leg to knee all the way back to all the way out. This exercise is working from the ground up to the midpoint of the Turkish get-up. The previous video in this series worked from the top down, from standing down to this hip transition. We work on everything from both sides because the more ways we learn it, the more likely we are to figure out how to do it correctly. We can always take big physical skills and break them down into small pieces and train them from either side of the movement. That allows us to understand it better so that we can get more of what we want out of training faster. There are a bunch of bodyweight versions of this exercise as well, and athletes, everybody, should work on all versions. Top down, bottom up, body weight, with vest, with weight, with everything. Getting up and down off of the ground is a basic human skill and everybody should be very good at it. Make sure that if you're doing this version, that you are working to do an equal number of reps or an equal amount of time on each side of your body. If you're doing this exercise for time, try to eventually get the same number of reps with both sides of the body. That means that you would be rotating at the same rate on both sides of your body, which is what we want. We're looking to create balance in rotation and strength and movement patterns, no matter which hand you're using, no matter what side you're rotating. The goal is no good side. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to do a half kneeling kettlebell clean and press into a hip drop. This is a complex exercise, and there are a lot of coaching cues that you should be very familiar with before you attempt this exercise. This exercise is way down in this playlist because you need to know how to do cleans, you need to know how to do presses, you need to know how to do half kneeling clean and presses, and you need to know how to do hip drops before you get to this exercise. This exercise is using the same entrance that we used in a video previously, but we are making the entrance its own exercise. We're always adding one step of complexity. That is the beauty of kettlebells. You can always add one more movement pattern to it, and we are working on movements, not just muscles. Movements are what define humanity, and you should be very good at moving. That is what humans do. That's what this playlist is meant to teach you. Get down to your half kneeling position any way you want. What defines our half kneeling position is about a 90-degree angle in the lead leg with this heel flat on the ground and about a 90-degree angle in our rear leg. If we are not back far enough and this heel is off of the ground, slide your knee back until your knee is over your ankle. That is our good starting position for this exercise. Take the kettlebell, roll it to about the line of the instep of the lead leg. When we pick up the kettlebell, how you pick it up is important. The L of our hand points down and it goes to the corner of the kettlebell. We call that the L of the kettlebell. The L of our hand goes to the L of the kettlebell. Hike the weight back, bring it up to our shoulder. The important part is that our elbow is not sticking out. Elbow is in nice and tight, so our forearm is vertical. If the handle is down at a 45-degree angle, you're probably holding it correctly. If the handle is parallel to the ground and your wrist is bent, it's probably gonna hurt. It's going to be very annoying. If you have to, use your other hand to adjust the bell on every rep until you learn to get it to the correct position. Press up overhead. Bring your hand down to the ground, sit all the way down, eyes up on the bell, make both arms perfectly straight. Lift your hip up, bring your knee all the way back to the line of the hand, orient your body upright, adjust your rear leg. Bring the thumb down to the height of your collarbone. Push the weight back, begin a new rep. Clean, press, elbow lock out, squeeze the tricep, let the weight drift back behind you. Eyes up on the thing that could fall on your face, hand goes down right next to your knee. Sit your leg through, all the way down, straighten both arms, all the way out. Keep your eyes up on the bell. That is the thing that will fall on your face if you stop thinking about it. Lift your hip up. Heel drives into the ground. Leg comes all the way back. Eyes up even more. Rotate up. Adjust your rear leg as necessary. Bring it down, thumb to collarbone height. Rest here. Clean. Reset the hips. Press. Find the ground. Drop the hip. Lift up. Knee back. Orient up. Weight down. Thumb to collarbone height. When you set the weight down, push the weight back. Drift it back out to set down in line with the instep of the lead leg. Things that will go wrong in this exercise, there's a lot of them. You can start by gripping the kettlebell not in the corner. When you do the clean, that could mean that your grip is in the wrong spot. If the handle is not down at a 45-degree angle, adjust it every time. Don't let your hips be back. Drive your hip forward to make a straight line between your knee, your hip, and your shoulder. You will probably feel a stretch in the front of your hip. That's good, that's fine. Press all the way up. Elbow lock out. If your elbow is slightly bent and you try to do this, it's gonna put a lot of stress on your shoulder. Lock all the way out by driving your thumb towards the sky. Put your hand on the ground. The easiest way to do that is to touch the leg, slide down, drift the hand out, and put the palm flat on the ground. Not the fingers, the palm. It's 1 inch further down, but it makes it stable. If you try to do this on your fingers and you go to do the hip pass, you will notice it does not feel good and it probably will not work. Flat palm. Sit the leg all the way through. If you go too far forward, then this foot will lift off of the ground. Only go as far forward as that lead heel stays flat on the ground. Make 2 arms perfectly straight. Lift the hip up just as high as you need to in the beginning and bring the knee all the way back. If you only bring the knee back part way, you will notice it'll be very hard to continue the exercise. Knee needs to come all the way back. Orient up. Pause. Bring the weight down. Pause. Rest here. This is the rest position before you reset the hips to start a new rep. For most people, this is a complex exercise. So you want to practice all the individual pieces of it first. You need to focus on your standing clean and press. Everybody should focus on that for probably 3 years. Then you want to work on your clean and press in the half kneeling position. You work on the hip drop separately, and then you work on getting down and doing the hip drop as an entrance. Now we are going to combine the half kneeling with the hip drop. So you will be spending more time under tension. The clean and press actually allows you to endure longer because it allows you to reset the position of your core and it allows your arm a brief second of rest. If you're just doing this with overhead lockout the entire time, as is done in previous videos, then your tricep and your shoulder are always under the same type of load. By adding the clean and press into this, you allow yourself brief respite so that you can learn to endure better. It allows people to reset their breathing, and it allows people to learn to focus longer, better. It's a simple idea, but it is not an easy idea. Start with light weights. This is all part of a greater idea called the Turkish Get-Up, and you should work on a Turkish Get-Up program for probably 3 to 5 years. It is its own breakdown version of Olympic lifting, and you can keep working on this with heavier and heavier weight for an extremely long period of time.